Most of us know that establishing service connection for a VA disability claim is one of the toughest things to do when you're submitting your claim to the VA. But did you know that certain conditions are presumed to be connected to your military service? That's right, and that's what we're talking about today. Talking about presumptive conditions, what they are, the benefits they offer, and some of the most common ones that veterans may be eligible for. And I'm going to talk about probably the most common towards the end of the video that you may be eligible for if you haven't already claimed it. So jumping right into this, what are presumptive conditions? Well, the definition of a presumptive condition is simply a medical condition that the VA automatically links to a military service without requiring the veterans to prove connection. Now, it is a little bit harder than this. There are some things that you have to prove, but that's what I'm going to discuss in this video to make sure that you're a little bit more educated on what you need to do to get that presumptive condition to get you a rating that you deserve. Number one, eligibility. To be eligible for a presumptive service connection, you basically need to fit into one of the three criteria. Service in certain locations. So we know from the PACT Act that if you served over in the Middle East, or actually a bunch of different spots in the Middle East and Africa, you could be eligible for a number of conditions based on your time there. Exposure to specific environmental hazards. If you served over in the Middle East, or you're somebody that's impacted by the PACT Act, you're exposed to burn pits, make sure you get on that burn pit registry. And number three, which this will always be for all presumptive conditions for the most part, and that's just certain periods of service. So if you're a Gulf War era veteran, and you went over to the Middle East and you fall into the locations that fall under the PACT Act, you got to be there for a certain period of time, which is essentially the dates that they put on there. There's many different ones, so I'm not going to go over them in this video, but same with the Vietnam criteria. Okay, so how does presumptive service connection help you as a veteran? Number one, it reduces the burden of proof from veterans. So you if you are watching YouTube videos, or you're Googling this stuff on the internet, or you're just simply putting in claims and getting denied, you know that you need to have service connection, a current diagnosis, and you got to connect those to some sort of event in service or injury in service. The presumptive condition takes that away. So if they say, hey, if you were served in this part of the world during this time frame and you have this condition, it's presumed presumptive, and therefore it's service connected. So it takes the hard part out of it. I've put in for some VA disability claims when the PACT Act first started, and I wrote in my personal statement, this is the PACT Act claim. I served in the Middle East during this time and this time. Here's some proof of that, and boom, easy approval. It also provides the pathway for veterans to receive compensation even if there isn't direct evidence linking that condition to their service. Same exact thing, right? I'm connected for rhinitis, and I simply just had to prove that I had been in that region during that time. I didn't have to show that I went to the doctor when I was in the military for rhinitis. I simply just got it. It was a presumptive connection, and it was easy peasy. Also, in addition to that, other disabilities can be linked to that presumptive condition. So let's just say that, for instance, you get rhinitis connected, and you want to connect sleep apnea to it, or some sort of mental health condition. You can do that. You can link as many conditions to a presumptive as you can. I mean, there's no limit. So it definitely gives you a path to getting more conditions service connected. But why does the VA, or how do they determine presumptive conditions? Well, it's easy. They see that that veterans are suffering from a certain condition. Maybe there's studies out there, and those studies eventually end up turning into law, and those laws create certain criteria, like we just talked about, with the time frame, the location, different exposure factors, and so the VA or the lawmakers create that, and the VA has to abide by it. So it's a benefit for us, especially those of us that have been deployed overseas. Some key considerations that I do want to share with you, though. You're still going to need to meet the basic eligibility criteria for any VA disability benefit. So, such as having like an honorable discharge. You're going to need that honorable discharge to be eligible for VA disability benefits in the first place. And that presumptive condition must be on the VA's official list. And there's quite a few lists out there. If you just Google presumptive conditions from the VA, then you'll get a list of them, and then you can see the criteria and what's necessary or required. And then really the only thing you have to prove from that point is that you met that criteria. I'm going to go over real quick some of the most common disabilities or presumptive disability claims that are out there. If I missed one or two, feel free to put them in the comments below so that others can learn from you. For our Vietnam veterans, some of the common conditions that are linked to Agent Orange exposure include, heart disease or strokes, type 2 diabetes, Parkinson's disease, non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, prostate cancer, and certain leukemias. For the Gulf War vets, those of us, that served overseas during that era, you got chronic fatigue syndrome, fibromyalgia, irritable bowel syndrome or IBS, and then chronic multi-symptom illnesses, which really that's just a bunch of different illnesses that you have that that are unexplained. So, different types of, pains, chronic fatigue syndrome. There's a bunch of them out there. If you want more information on that, Google it. This one is a tough one to get because, there's really no diagnosis for this, right? Like, this one can be a tough one. If you do have it, throw a comment down below and tell us how you got it. Rhinitis and sinusitis are two others. And then, of course, probably one of the most common ones out there is tinnitus. That's the ringing in the ears. That's the first claim that I ever put in. I had no idea that was a presumptive claim. I didn't even know really what it was that I had. But real simple to get that. I wrote a personal statement, and based on the job that I had in the military, it was easy to connect it, and no problem. I got that approved without an issue. Filing for a presumptive claim. If you've never filed for a claim before, you simply go online and get an account with eBenefits through VA.gov, and just click on the button to initiate a claim. It's the same as any other claim that you've ever put in. However, if you haven't, those are the steps. I'll make a different video on that, or I'm sure that there are plenty out there that you can find. But you simply, file for a presumptive claim just like you would any other claim. You just need to make sure that you have, just with the regular evidence, right? The diagnosis, and then whatever you need to show presumptive. So whatever the presumptive criteria is, just make sure you can submit proof. And I would suggest submitting that proof with a DD-214 and a personal statement. In that personal statement, spell it out for them. I'll tell you, when the PACT Act first came out, it was difficult for VA raters to understand, hey, why is this person submitting this if there was no personal statement? They may not even have really been aware or familiar with all of the conditions that were falling under the PACT Act. So you really had to spell it out for them. I'm hoping they've gotten better by now. I haven't submitted a claim in a while, but if they haven't, just do the personal statement. It'll save you time instead of having to resubmit or appeal. Listen, I just want to encourage all the veterans out there, check to see if you qualify for any of these presumptive conditions. If you do, start the claims process. If you're not sure how to figure out what presumptive conditions are out there and whether or not you apply, or whether they apply to you, go see a VSO. Call them up, make an appointment, and bring them your medical records or talk to them. I know that might be tough to do because some of them are not very responsive. So, jump on Google some of the symptoms you have, along with VA, disability PACT Act claims and or presumptive conditions, and just see if any of them fit with the symptoms that you have. I appreciate everybody watching my videos. I hope that they're helpful. If they are helpful to you, please like and subscribe. Feel free to leave comments below. I'll try to answer as many questions as I can out here